Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and continuing through the this little mini series of Chris's health from top to bottom. Here we are beginning, ladies and gentlemen, at literally the arse end, literally the very bottom of this list, and that is Chris's dirty, cramped briefs. Now, if you don't exactly know what this is about, I apologize in advance because if you're not a fan of shitty humor, well, this might be the point to turn off the video because, well, let's just get to it. You know, it's okay to be different. You know, sometimes we have our accidents. We poop ourselves. Yeah, then we end up with dirty pants. Now, in case you're wondering if Chris is somewhat deranged for having to at all admit to something like this, well, he is, but again, even for something as embarrassing as shitting yourself, you really should just be keeping this information to yourself. It's embarrassing, and even if Chris technically isn't embarrassed, it just doesn't make him look very good. Also because the reasons for why are very obvious, for the reasons that Chris goes into detail about. Dirty Cramped Briefs is a trollish shorthand used in reference to Chris's troubles with fecal leakage. I'm just going to use fecal incontinence because I don't really like leakage, I suppose. Call it what you will. Coined by Chris himself in an IRC chat from January 2009. It has quickly become a popular catchphrase. In short, Chris unwittingly shits himself often. Even after encouragement from his doctor and from his mother, Chris would refuse to wear butt garments because, according to the Ivy Q&A, he felt that those were for babies. I don't exactly know how Chris can suggest, babies being the size that those things are made for, but what can you do? He had only 1 or 2 episodes where he wore the butt garments, however, though they were only worn because Ivy told him it was his punishment for cheating on her with Vanessa Hudgens. Based on his own comments on the subject and those of people who've managed to get close to him, I don't know why ever, but okay, particularly his now deceased sweetheart Ivy, stress tends to inspire these episodes, but at other times it appears to be too lazy, careless, or distracted to bother making his way to the toilet. Considering that Chris's bowel issues have been occurring since childhood, it's most likely related to his autism. Also that Chris might suffer from things like, is it some so I don't know if it's like Collins disease. It's the kind, you know what I mean? It's the sort of thing that actually affects your long and short intestines and stuff like that. As bowel issues have been known to occur among people with the disorder, particularly in the more severely affected types. Chris himself on Dirty Cramped Briefs. Chris felt allured to difficulty controlling his bowels during a December 2008 IRC chat with Panda Halo, where he admitted that he sometimes mistook a bowel movement for gas and shat himself as a consequence. "I thought it was a fart, sir. I thought it was safe." He said it did not happen often and replied with an emphatic no when Panda suggested that he wear adult diapers to deal with the problem. Ground zero for the Cramped Briefs phenomenon was the 20th of January 2009, when Chris made a bizarre slip while arguing with Clyde Cash and Billy Mays on IRC. When prodded by the trolls concerning his alleged fondness for wearing women's underwear, Chris angrily retorted, "I have numbers of pairs of dirty cramped briefs." On further prodding from the trolls, he went on to reveal that most of the time he didn't even realize he'd crapped his briefs until well after the fact. That's kind of strange. How could Chris did he not think that there was something wrong? Most people usually could tell when that sort of thing happens, but why Chris felt the need to surrender this information is beyond our understanding. Although, given the context of the conversation, Clyde accusing him of wearing his mother's panties, Chris may have felt that offering more details on his supposed preference for male underwear, namely that he wears them enough to shit them in, would reinforce his point. Good God, Chris, at least make him earn it. Don't just be like, "Hi, I shit myself," Billy Mays in the same chat. Later, during the infamous Julie Reveals Herself episode, Chris shat himself in mid-conversation while sparring with Blue Spike. Shortly before Max forced Chris to shove his medallion up his ass, he asked if Chris had lost control. Chris first shouted, "Maybe," and then gave up and admitted, "Yes." On the 28th of April 2009, Chris admitted in a video that he craps his pants when he's stressed and claimed it's perfectly normal, comparing shitting his pants as a grown man with a baby defecating in its diaper. On the 1st of December... Well, no, they're not nearly the same. On the 1st of December 2009, Chris refused to offer advice to a mailbag correspondent who suggested that she had some degree of fecal incontinence, claiming that the topic was personal and that he refused to talk about it until he eventually did. Given Chris's glorified history of bad taste and indiscretion, this drawing a line between what is private and public could be a milestone. Or perhaps he just found the idea of a girl who shits herself to be too icky for his tastes. Strange, considering we know what comes up later, but again, details. Further evidence of Chris's discomfort in talking about the subject lies in his choice of dated vocabulary. Rather than calling toilets a toilet or a John, Chris refers to them formally and in an antiquated southern fashion as commodes, as if he's embarrassed to mention them. Yet ironically, dirty cram briefs are not a personal subject. In an AIM chat conducted on the 20th of October 2010, Chris revealed to Jackie that on many occasions where he turns what was once white into brown, it slips out painlessly and that he doesn't know it until he sits down. In fact, he said shat himself at the exact point where she asked about the term dirty cram briefs. He blamed it on stress that he had from earlier in the session, which involved recalling tales of high school bullying. He then stated that it had happened in previous chats between them and that they may have a psychic link. That's Chris's rationale, it would seem. I know, it's strange, isn't it? On the 30th of October 2010, Chris revealed how he handles crapping himself in public, because of course you would just say stuff like this. Why would Chris not think it wouldn't be natural to say it? He admitted that when he loses control, he goes into the nearest public restroom, walks into a store, and wipes his ass and shitty underwear with toilet paper. Otherwise, he waits until the drive home to clean himself up. Yes, everyone, he openly admits not only to shitting his pants, but also to driving home with a shit smeared all over his ass. This adds to the ever-expanding list of reasons not to accept a ride from Chris. In a June 2011 post on the Tomboys and Tomgirls of Virginia forum, Chris revealed that he now only wears panties and refuses to wear briefs. Ironically, Chris's desperation to prove he does not wear women's underwear is what led him to reveal his problem to the world, when Chris literally could have said he doesn't and literally never brought any of this into existence at all. So well done, Chris. In a June 2021 chat with The Place, Chris informed the server that he had been feeling stressed after rereading Chapter 5 of Warhol and Chris Chan, and while driving his van, he had crapped his panties, knowing that his menstrual pad had taken most of the damage. Ivy on cramped briefs. Ivy's post-mortem account of her time with Chris sheds more light on Chris's incontinence issues. She says Chris has had trouble controlling his bowels ever since he was a child, but the problem became more acute after he finished school, especially whenever he got stressed out. In the spring of 2009, the subject had become a source of serious contention between Chris and Barbara. At the time, Chris would inconsiderately toss his dirty cramped underwear in the family's communal laundry basket, still fully loaded with excrement, and given what we know about the state of 14 Branch Lane Court, the entire house could have stunk abominably for days before anything was actually done or moved. Eventually, imagine what would happen if Chris just decided to throw his briefs somewhere into the deep recesses of a room completely overgrown with hoarding. You could have literally have created a disaster area from stuff like that, And Chris's comments about Resident Evil living in his house would not have been too unbelievable, even for Chris's standards. Eventually, they brought up the problem with the doctor, who advised Chris to make changes to his diet and exercise routine and possibly wear protective garments. Chris didn't think much of these suggestions, especially the notion that he should wear diapers. That's for babies, was his comment. At first, Barbara tried to force the issue by refusing to do his laundry, hoping that Chris would either wear the damn diapers or actually do the adult thing and start washing his clothes. Of course, Chris did neither of these things. A short while later, he was called by a troll who pretended to be Clyde Cash and made a series of death threats, making Chris genuinely afraid for his life and leading him to evacuating in his sleep that night. After that, Barb relented and started washing Chris's laundry again. Part of me wants to say that poor woman, but no, not really. As of now, thankfully for us, we have yet to see the after effects of Dirty Cramped Bed. Hallelujah. Additionally, given the filthy condition of the Chandler house, this is also a straight-up guarantee that Chris, Barbara, Bob, when he was alive, and nearly anyone who enters his house enters a dung cave of no escape. Having to deal with Chris's shit leaves you coated in it, both metaphorically and literally, not to mention that rental house they had to stay in because Chris burned the house down. It's a particularly Chris-like sort of irony that he finds the suggestion of wearing diapers an insult to his maturity level, but sees no implications whatsoever regarding that the same maturity in the fact that he routinely shits his pants. Something that people grow out of literally since infancy, if that makes sense. Menstrual pads. Hooray. During the Tom Girl saga, Marvin leaked images of Chris holding a box of feminine hygiene pads and explained the context. Hey, also Chris got these to control his pants shitting. See, the doctor suggested Chris get diapers, but he screeched, but those are for babies. Now that he can use menstrual pads instead, that's a-okay for a beautiful young flower like Chris. Dean. In 2015, a little song and dance, a box of pads is clearly... okay, whatever, so we can see that. And finally, dumb people, what you saw in accidental crotch shot were my panties, panty line, and pantyhose. No diaper. What the hell is wrong with some people? So, yeah, and the only thing to note is that literally this is just the IRC chat from Clyde Cash. It is, you could just, it's there if anybody wants to see it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the ending of what we've referred to as Chris's issues with incontinence. I don't suppose there's anything much else to say from this, but if Chris thinks that literally just stress is what's causing these outbursts, Chris couldn't be any further, the apple couldn't fall any further from the tree. And for reasons we're about to get into next, it's not just, it's his obesity and his insistence on junk food is destroying a lot of other things about his health. And I'm sorry to say, but if you think this is the low point in which things get better for Chris, well, I'll see all of you guys again next time. Take care, and bye-bye for now.